Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dishin Film with FantaSci. And tonight we've got Damon Wellner here. Damon made the FantaSci award-winning film Hood. Wait, there's a subtitle? Hood?
Hood, a Star Wars Story.
Is it Hood, a Star Wars Story? And that was back in 2020?
I made it in 2019.
It was in our festival in 2020. That's why I chose this logo behind me. This is the year that you won. Our previous year, we were Star Wars themed. It would have been more appropriate, but who doesn't like Superman 4, The Quest for Peace? So, I'll show some clips of your film as we're talking about it, but it was a stop motion animation deep dive into the backstory of an unnamed Star Wars character who earned a name throughout history. And tell us about him.
Yes.
Wait, I'm sorry. What are you eating?
I have I've got a chicken salad here that I have concocted myself, which is lettuce mix, carrots, onions, cucumbers, chicken, sesame sticks, and raisins. That's maybe a controversial, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble with the audience here, but I put some raisins in it and some cheese, and some strawberry balsamic basil dressing.
Nice. I went with more of a leftover chicken onion salad, so we're in the same vein.
Hey,
but you're in California, so you have raisins. Well, so tell us about your lead character, for the people who aren't in the know about Willrow Hood.
Okay, yeah. So Willrow Hood is pretty much the most obscure background extra, character that was made from a background extra in the Star Wars universe, and the action figure got made as kind of an inside joke among fans. It was a poll online, a fan choice poll, like, choose the next action figure we're going to make. Willrow Hood is a guy who runs by in the background of Empire Strikes Back, and the reason that fans ever even noticed him was because he was carrying this. Oh, here he is, right here. Actually, here's Willrow Hood, and he's known for this little thing that he's carrying as he's running, right? And but if you're my age, you recognize that as an ice cream machine that they used to sell on late night television infomercials.
You'd have to churn it manually.
Yeah, it had like a crank on the top, or so a lazy prop master, just sort of gave it to him and had him run, and wasn't expected to ever be noticed, apparently, in my opinion. But he became known as the ice cream guy, because he didn't have a name. But then the fans named him Willrow Hood after the Hood Ice Cream Company on the East Coast of the United States. That's where I'm from. So I grew up on Hoodsy cups. You ate these little Dixie cups of chocolate and vanilla ice cream mixed, and they were called Hoodsy cups. And so Willrow Hood was named after that, and they made an action figure of him. And then after my video was made, they have retconned this into being something different. When this action figure was made, they said that it was a hard drive, a Rebel Alliance hard drive, and this isn't actually the one that came with his character. This one comes with the Mandalorian, but they've taken this prop and retconned it into being something else. In the it's in the Mandalorian world, it's a safe that you put your most valuable Beskar bricks in. But so it wasn't, so that they keep retconning everything in Star Wars, Disney, and trying to homogenize it all into some kind of canon. But if you die, in bringing it into the Mandalorian universe and giving it a name, they actually dug it in deeper, so that it's a double deep dive into not only the Star Wars lore of who Willrow Hood was, but also now it's called a Camtano. Well, there's an internet video that you can find if you look up the word Camtano.
Ice?
Ice.
Cream.
Game.
Ice cream.
Consono.
Oh my
Anyway, like
gosh.
Yoda said, the amazing, the mind of a child or something like that. He had a line. So, anyway, I just love that even, you know, bringing it into the Mandalorian world, they kept the you know, they kept it an ice cream reference. So, you know, John Favreau knows what he's doing.
That is very, very true. I predict he will run all of Star Wars in the next few years.
Maybe.
He'll be the new captain.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's got a grip on he loves the things that I love, or he cares about the things that I care about, and he's more of a toy guy. You can tell because he's referenced a lot of toy specific things in The Mandalorian.
Troop carrier.
The troop carrier, for one, bringing that into canon, which is great. But I also thought that the season 1 ending was a reference to, because Mando's up there clinging to a TIE fighter, and you know, he crashes the TIE fighter by disabling it, but basically he's gripping onto it on the spot where the button was. Where I was a kid, you'd press that button and the wing would pop off. So in my, you know, I want to make a remake of that scene where he just hits the button and pops the wing off, rather than, you know, attaching explosives to it or whatever he does.
You say that you played with toys as a kid. It looks like you still do.
Yes, I blame my mother and grandmother for getting me addicted to the toys when I was a child. I feel like there's nothing I can do at this point. I will never ever stop as long as they keep making toys on this scale. I will continue to shell out my dollars. Even though I'm not, you know, I'm less and less of a fan of Disney and what they're doing with the show. I mean, they're really like testing, you know, they're doing a few things right, and then they're getting a lot of things wrong, and then, you know, so they're really testing my will as a fan.
I definitely want to get into that, but age-wise, you look like about my age. So did you see Star Wars in the theaters?
First time I saw it, my father took us to a drive-in, but he didn't go in the drive-in. He parked on the street near the drive-in and tuned into the radio. And we saw the end before the beginning, which is pretty much typical experience of going to the movies with my father. He loved to bring us to the movies, but he just never got the time right. So we always watched the end and stayed through to the next show. Not the best way to watch movies.
Especially not.
Yeah, I mean, I've been addicted to Star Wars ever since then. I always wanted to be a filmmaker ever since I saw the making of Star Wars. I just always knew that that was all I wanted to do. And for years and years, I tried to, you know, I mean, I've had a little bit of a career in film and TV, but never really got all that far with it. But I was always making videos on my own with my toy collection for the last 24 years now. Started in 1998, and been doing it ever since, because, you know, to me it's just a fun way to express myself filmically and sort of have fun trying to recreate the visual effects and things on, you know, on a zero budget, a micro budget.
Yeah, for your stop motion filmmaking technique, which everyone's familiar with, do you have specialized articulated models, or are you using store-bought models, or how do you, because like the store-bought models aren't as posable, I would imagine, as something created for stop motion animation. So how do you do that?
Luckily, the toys have been improving in quality over the years, and, you know, they've got a lot more points of articulation than they used to have. Of course, they keep on kind of fluctuating all of these features, to save money here and there.
Mhm.
But generally there's been a cranking up of quality, and the toys that they're making now are better than they've ever made before. And so they almost do become like stop motion,
Okay.
puppets that have armatures inside. I mean, they're on a much smaller scale than most stop motion is done, and they don't have armatures, so it's not as easy. But
Because I remember
you
when I had those dolls, excuse me, action figures,
know,
as a kid, their arms, they didn't bend. They were just like this.
well, right, and now they've actually what I kind of love is that they're continuing the line. They have a new line of retro, they call them retro collection, and they're made with the same old kind of detailing, and only 5 points of articulation. And I gotta buy both. I gotta buy the fully articulated version and the one that fits in with my old collection, because I'm a sucker for this. It's a gimmick. It's definitely a gimmick, but it works on people like me because of stuff like this. They've got the new Boba Fett. Wait a second, sorry. For comparison, the old Boba Fett and the new Boba Fett, and he's got the same backpack. So they're using, they're using the same molds and just updating them to a different, and they came out with this stormtrooper, the new shadow trooper, dark trooper, I forget what these guys are called, but and if you look at the blaster, there's a little old Kenner Imperial blaster hidden in the design of this new one.
Okay.
So they built a bigger gun out of the old Imperial blaster. So stuff like that hits me in the nostalgia,
Mhm.
right in the heart,
Oh, sure.
So
Is that
for me, it's always been about like the gap between, like, this Boba Fett doesn't look quite like the Boba Fett that we saw in the movies, and
Mhm.
like the old Imperial transport or whatever, it wasn't in the movie, but it was a toy that Kenner made. So I've just always loved the toys even more than the movies, because that before we had video to watch the movie over and over again, all you kind of had was the toys.
Yeah.
I was a very lucky kid. I had a Betamax in the house, like before Empire Strikes Back even was in theaters, because my father opened one of the first video stores in the United States in 1979, I think it was. It was called Captain Video, and so I actually had a bootleg of Star Wars filmed in the theater with a video camera, way back then. Like, they didn't even put it out on video till like 83 or something like that. And
Yeah.
I was a very, very, very lucky kid.
I remember we rented a VHS player to record Star Wars off HBO when it hit HBO.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, once they showed it on HBO, I recorded over that bootleg, and I screwed up because then, like, the tail end of it was still there, and it was letterboxed. And I was like, what is going on? Why is it different? Like, I didn't understand aspect ratios and stuff like that. So I was like, why does it look different? Why does it, so anyway.
Is that a Razor Crest behind you?
It is.
It looks pretty big.
This is, yeah, see, they've really like taken it to the next level with the collecting, and they're making people like me buy stuff like this.
Wow.
And this, you have to pre-order it before they make it. And they do like a Kickstarter type campaign, and if they don't get enough backers, they don't make the toy. And so luckily, like, I wasn't ready to shell out $750 for there was a Jabba's sail barge. That was the first one that they made of the HasLab. That's what they call this. Oh, this is flying here. yeah, I kick myself now that I didn't try to come up with the $750 because I would love to have that sail barge, but now it's like, you know, $1,500 online, $2,000, you know. So anyway,
Well,
I'll
take a
probably never
bite.
get it. But it's crazy that like Hasbro is, you know, putting out these super high-end, super expensive toys for adults like me who are addicted to toys. They're not even for kids. You'd be crazy to buy this for a kid
Oh yeah,
because they're just going to break it.
yeah.
But anyway, it's a crazy world we're living in, and I love it. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know that. I don't know that it's a healthy lifestyle that I have, but it brings me a lot of joy.
Well, so did your film. It brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, and I'm glad you made it. It's on YouTube, yes?
Yes, it is on YouTube. Yes, my YouTube channel is Probot Animation, and you can find all 20 years worth of pretty much everything we've ever made is on that channel.
Excellent. I highly encourage everyone to take a deep dive, especially starting with Hood. It was just so, when I was watching it in our festival, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And I think, what did you win? Best fan film?
I think so, or best animation. I can look it up.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because it takes an unknown character and gives him all this backstory. And on top of that, it's stop motion animation, which you don't see much of anymore. So it's a fantastic film. Everyone should stop what they're doing right now. Don't even watch the rest of this. Go watch it. So take a bite. I want you to eat two. We're here to dine.
Thank you.
So you had mentioned something a little earlier about your seesawing with the way Disney is piloting the Star Destroyer nowadays, so to speak. Yeah, I feel mostly the same. You know, as a kid like you, I think I'm a couple years older than you, but yeah, totally loved the first three films. Then, you know, 20 years later, I got to take my kids to see the second trilogy. That, you know, it didn't hit me. I had, you know, reservations, I guess, about some of the storyline. Like, you know, well, why do I care about taxation of trade routes? I want to see Jedi's kicking ass. So I thought it stumbled along the way and got progressively better. You know, the third one, at the end of the third one, was pretty Star Wars again. Then we have the J.J. Abrams era, and I want you to chime in on all this when you're, you know, after you've had some food. You know, JJ, he's slick. He provides a lot of entertainment value, but you know, if you want to really analyze the story, there's some problems there. Mandalorian, I thought, hit it out of the park. It was fantastic. Boba Fett was okay and got better for a certain reason. And now Kenobi, we're up to Kenobi, and I'm really disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, they got one more episode to kind of turn it all around, but I don't see how they can possibly. I mean, I was trying to keep my expectations low, just because we've kind of seen, you know, some unevenness in terms of quality, so to put it mildly. But I mean, okay, so going back,
Yes,
I
please.
mean, I love Star Wars and Empire. I feel like when Jedi came out, you could tell the cast, everybody was just kind of sick of it. They were a little bit done. They, you know, as great as Return of the Jedi is, and it is great, but there's just a couple of there are a couple of things that are less good than the first two films, in my opinion. Like, it didn't quite hit it out of the park, right? There was always a little bit of reservation. Plus, Return of the Jedi actually makes the other films problematic in that it really highlights the incest stuff that wasn't a problem up until then. Like, up until then, everything's great. There's kind of a love triangle with Luke and Leia and Han and stuff, and it all works great. But then it's like the way they kind of just ends with like Han and Leia finding out that Luke and Leia are sister and brother, like right at the very end, like, and it's made into kind of a joke where Han's like, "Don't worry, I'll get out of the way and let you and Luke get together, Leia." And she's like, "No, he's my brother." It's like, it just has to make, like, it makes cringe moments in the other films, like right from the start, like, oh, she's beautiful. And, you know, all the way through Empire, there's just like tons of stuff that is now cringy.
Well,
So then, like, so then you've got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
And
But
so from that on, it's always been taking the good with the bad.
back up to that point, I maintain George Lucas did not plan on a sequel or trilogy. There are so many things that are different story-wise in Empire from A New Hope, as we call it now. You know, he didn't know that Luke and Leia were brother and sister. He didn't even know that Vader was Luke's father when he wrote Star Wars. I swear to God, I'd have to go back and really nitpick it, because there were things I'm like, see right there, that means that he didn't know that Vader was going to be the father. But he might not even have known Leia was going to be the sister in Empire, because why would he have Leia give him a big old smooch on the mouth?
See, that's the thing. Like when I was growing up, I wanted to believe, you know, that everything was in George Lucas's head from the beginning, and like what we saw is all of his genius, you know, played out. But you know, as you grow up, you realize what a collaborative effort it is. How many of those designs were other people's designs, and
Right.
you know, and what is great about Star Wars is that even though a lot of the people didn't necessarily believe in the project they were working on, a lot of them just thought it was just whatever sci-fi crap.
Yep.
Those British filmmakers, they really gave it their all and gave us so much in that first film that they're still dredging up stuff to spin off with. And
Yep.
It's unbelievable how great all that is. But like, you know, yeah, I grew up wanting to be a filmmaker like George Lucas, and had this really like delusional understanding of what filmmaking is and what specifically the Star Wars trilogy was. And you know, you come to understand that, yeah, they were kind of all making it up as they went along.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not 100% like, I've seen a podcast recently that was highlighting these cut scenes that talk about Luke's father in A New Hope, where Gold Leader or something comes up to him and says, "Yeah, I knew your father and he was a great pilot. If you're half the pilot he was, then you'll do a great job," or something. And the podcast was trying to say like, well, this is proof that George Lucas didn't want Vader to be Luke's father, but I don't see it that way. If somebody knew Anakin was a great pilot, but just Anakin got killed in the Clone Wars, that's what I imagine everybody assumes what happened to Anakin. Because I don't think the world is supposed to know that Anakin became Darth Vader,
Right.
which is one of the things that they're really kind of messing with this new show.
Yes, exactly.
But
So-
again, like the thing is, like ever since Jedi, there's always been this kind of the cringe moments that you have to kind of grin and bear, if you want to be a purist like me and just take the good with the bad, watch them all on every holiday. You know, I pretty much suffer through all of the sequels and all of everything. For me, it was just always about the marathon, just putting on Star Wars and Empire and then Jedi and just watching all three as one story. And like, you know, that's what I would want to do with any, like, I feel like any film series needs to be watchable in the marathon. And if you've screwed it up, if you're like, you know, Highlander 2 to Highlander, whatever, like just hardly any franchise has handled it well. They're always messing up. And there's just, but the little things like inconsistency on how the blaster sounds or something like that always bother me, you know. And Star Wars always did it better than anybody else as far as the continuity of quality in those three films. That was better than anybody had ever done. But then when you get into the prequels and or even the special editions, then the prequels, and then the sequels, then there's just so much bad that you have to take with the good that it just becomes really difficult to be. And then when you throw in how toxic the fan base has become, and it's just kind of embarrassing to call yourself a Star Wars fan, because then everybody's going to assume that you're like a racist, misogynist piece of crap. And so, you know, it's just, and you know, if they don't get their act together, I might stop buying the toys, which is crazy because.
And that's probably their biggest source of income right there from you. No, and you and like Phil, who also won that year for his.
Oh yeah, Phil
Origins. You know, there's, and this year we had Bucketheads and a couple other Star Wars themed fan films. I mean, it's just it's become a quote unquote industry, even though, as you said, you can't profit off of it. But there's a lot of nooks and crannies of the Star Wars universe that people can explore that aren't canon or going to be delved into by Lucasfilm or et al., Disney, etc. So yeah, I applaud the fan filmmakers who give us more of what we want, sometimes better than Disney and Lucas.
I'm a very harsh critic when it comes to fan films. Even, you know, I mean, hats off to like, you know, Phil, excuse me, or that was Star Wars Origins, right? And what an amazing film that is. I mean, but there's so many fan films that don't, I mean, he touts that one as like the most expensive fan film ever made, because I mean the budget is like,
oh yeah,
astronomical, where most people are really,
they're running around in their backyard in robes.
Yeah, and you know, hats off to any, like, I gotta hand it to anybody who's able to like organize a bunch of people to be in a certain place at a certain time on a certain day, and for no money, you know, for no or very little money, you know, giving their all to the filmmaking collaborative process. Oh, hello. And
made an appearance.
But it's just so hard to achieve a level of production value that makes it watchable if you're doing it with like real people and real costumes and all that. I mean, because,
well, we had two films this year, Scorekeeper and Bucketheads. Were right up there with Disney quality. They were amazing. Have you seen them?
I haven't seen them yet. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, check them out.
But I mean, for me personally, I find it I find it very lucky that I can do most of the stuff that I do. 7 years ago, I took a stop motion class at the Stupid Buddy Studios, where they make Robot Chicken. And that changed my life and changed my whole process. And now I do everything with stop motion and basically work alone, other than when I need voiceovers. So I get help with the acting. But
are you working on another one?
I'm just started on Hood 2. I haven't started shooting it yet, but I just wrote it. I wrote it real quick because my friend Mike, who plays Mike Anthony, who does the voice of Hood, he was coming back into town. He used to work with me at TMZ. I used to work for TMZ. I was the pinnacle of my paparazzi career. And Mike was another guy who worked for TMZ, and he's also a comedian. So he did a great job with the voice. And since he was coming back in town, I just said, oh man, we've won all these awards with Hood. Let's just might as well do Hood 2. So I've written the story. I'm not sure how great it is. It's not quite, it's different from Hood 1, because in Hood 1, it's mostly a flashback to show his backstory. But if you really think about it, nothing happens in Hood because it's all basically in the flashback.
Yeah.
And he just grabs the thing and runs out the door. Spoiler alert. But basically, Hood was supposed to be just a joke. Like that whole backstory wasn't even the original idea, it was just going to be a joke where a Robot Chicken style sketch that was supposed to be like 10 to 15 seconds long, where Wilro hears the evacuation order, runs out the door, pause for 5 seconds, and then he runs back in, grabs the Camtano and runs out. And I wasn't going to explain it in any way, shape, or form. But then I got to thinking, like, why, if you only had 10 seconds to evacuate somewhere, why would you grab an ice cream maker?
Yeah.
Why would that be the thing that you grab? And so it would only be the thing that you grab if you had, a personal, relationship with it, and you needed it for, for personal reasons. And so
that's what makes it so good.
But the next story, the point of it is to give Hood a heroic story in the setting of now rather than a flashback, and I'm going to try to make it line up timing wise with Empire Strikes Back so that it intersects with that story, hopefully in fun ways that people like.
Okay. So how long does something like this take you?
Well, the first one took 7 months to make, but it's not like I was making it every day. I had to like work full time, so I was only making it on nights and weekends. But so that took 7 months. I'm expecting this one to go a little faster because it's more of a dialogue-driven story, not as much action. I mean, there's action, but I feel like it's action I could shoot a little faster than. Hood was pretty complex in that it was a giant, Rancor attack. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, how many festivals did you get into with that?
About 50.
Nice.
Yeah, we've won about almost 30 awards at about 50 festivals. We've got an 80-something% acceptance rate.
Mm-hmm.
And like a 50% win rate.
Yeah, it's unique. It's and as far as I've seen, everybody makes a fan film, and like I said, kudos for getting it done. A lot of them don't get into festivals because they're a little too basic, but the good ones do. But the stop motion I've not seen before, so it was great. Well, on that note, we can wrap it up on a happy note that there is good in Star Wars, and hopefully they'll redemption arc. Hopefully they'll redeem themselves. And looking forward to Hood 2. You think it's going to be out next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take me a while. But I might actually try to raise money, but so far that hasn't generated any. But I've always been self-funded, but other people try to raise money in order to facilitate taking the time to make the film, which would be great. But anyway, it would be great to have some support on that end. Visit my, follow me on Instagram, follow me on YouTube. I try to do some streaming to show people my methods, because I do everything really low budget, and I don't have proper equipment really. So I like to try to encourage other people to do what I'm doing, because I feel like what I'm doing isn't all that hard. Anybody can do it as long as you got some toys and a camera. And I make my explosions with cotton balls. I make, I try to do in-camera effects and stuff. So anyway, join me for streams if you want to learn my technique. And yeah, it'll take probably a year to make Hood 2. Hopefully not that long, but
well, I'll be looking for when it's ready. Everybody should follow Damon and the adventures of Wilro Hood in Hood 2 as soon as possible. And thanks for having us. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Teal. It's been a real pleasure.
Yes.
I appreciate what you do. You're out there like uplifting the fan filmmakers and the people doing their best with what they have. And I appreciate that.
Well, so does Pippin.
What a cutie.
Okay, we'll sign off for tonight, and we'll talk to you
Thanks
soon.
a lot. Good to see you.